everybody. I am Sapna Mahadevan, your host for this wonderful evening, and I welcome each one of you to PSTV. So, these days we are learning the art of performing stand up comedy. Yes. Um, in the past, we have seen a lot of episodes on how we can be writing beautiful stories in different genres. And now, since the past week, we have started with a different vertical, which is stand up comedy. And we are now learning how we can ace our humorous side. So, if you feel that you are one of the funniest ones in your gang, then this is the right place to be in. Yes, you can learn all the tips and the tricks, all the different sets of comedy performances that can be done, and try and ace your game, right? So, last episode, we spoke about the various famous comedians from across the globe. We spoke about Robin Williams, Louis C.K., Jerry Seinfeld, and Zakir Khan, Abhishek Upamanyu, some of the Indian stand up comedians as well, right? And we also understood the scope of stand up comedy. Yes. So it is definitely an emerging and a popular art form which can be pursued as a lucrative career as well. And today we are going to start with one of the types of stand up comedy performances. This performance is called observational comedy, right? So, what it means is that, observe any type of humor which you attain by observation. And let me tell you, this observation can be about an everyday life situation. It could be about a person, maybe like a co-worker, a family member, or maybe even a dear friend. And we bet that you love a person who can make you laugh, right? So yes, it is really interesting. Observational humor is funny because it is really easy to understand, and we all of us here relate to it as well, right? So if you haven't heard about this before, then do not worry, just sit back, relax, and I will let you know everything that there is to understand about observational humor. Yes. So let's start our episode of today. I can see a lot of comments here in the chat box. Balbir Kumar, hi there. Thanks for joining the live. And Asha Kiran, thanks there for those love emojis. And yes, let's move ahead with our episode for today. A warm welcome to each one of you. And here we are. Stand out at stand up comedy. Explore yourself at a comic level. Yes. Shiny Julian, hi there. Um, so, yes, let me bring you all of the coming up segments, specially curated for my dear bunch of viewers here. And we are going to look at what is stand up comedy, the different scenarios, like one particular maybe observational story that I'll bring out to you, and you can picture it and try and understand how this comedy flows. Yes. And then there are going to be essentials, some pro tips on how you can be writing observational humor. Then of course there are a lot of fun segments today. We have the crossword, decipher the idiom. There is a synonymous segment, identify the comedian, and there are also icebreaker questions like always, right? So ring in your creativity and try giving me some amusing answers towards all of these icebreaker questions. Yes. Nitesh Kumar, hi there. Thanks for joining the live. And yes, let's get going to our first icebreaker question. There it is. Okay, so it is not an icebreaker question at the starting of our episode today. There is a little bit of a surprise here. Before we take you to the icebreaker question, there is one of this segment which is called Guess the Character, right? So I'm going to show you some pictures, and you need to give me names of these famous movie or cartoon characters, and also you can mention the name of the movie, right? So here is the first one. We all know this. We have laughed out loud with all of the antics that this cartoon character does, right? So quickly in the chat box, name this cartoon character, and let me know which movie as well, maybe. Great. We have, yes, Nisha, that is right. Absolutely, that is Tom from Tom and Jerry, and we really love him, isn't it? So, Tom from Tom and Jerry is the correct answer. Thanks for all of those answers there. And let's get going to the second one. Here it is. Okay, a beloved character. Who remembers their stories? Let me see. Tangled is correct. That is right again. Thanks a lot for that. That is Maximus from Tangled. And here goes the third one. A nice shiny red car. What is it named? Okay, giving that to you. It is Lightning McQueen. Yes. So brilliant. Thanks to all of you who have attempted to answer these questions in the chat box. And yes, let's get going to the next segment, which is about what is stand-up comedy, right? So by now you would have had an understanding. If you have been a regular in all of these live episodes, then you know what a stand-up comedy performance is. But for the unversed, let me tell you that it is a show or a performance where a comedian performs in front of a live audience, and the aim, of course, is to make them laugh, right? So the jokes are scripted, they have a lot of punchlines, maybe there are one liners, but there is a routine set that they have written, and then they try to perform that in front of an audience. Now, it not only requires for the comedian to be humorous, it also requires them to have a lot of public skill. It also requires them to memorize their lines well and to land it correctly at the punchline properly, right? So the average stand-up comedy show gets around 4 to 6 laughs a minute from the audience, and I think you get to know whether you are a successful comedian or not when based on the audience's reaction, right? So after your joke, if there is pin drop silence in the auditorium or in the club, then you know that that your joke has not landed well, isn't it? So this is one performance where the report card is really out there in front of you instantly. Yes, so that's what a stand-up comedy performance is. And let me now take you to what the subtopic of the day is. So as I mentioned, we are going to explore the first type of stand-up comedy performance, which is observational comedy. Yes, and just like the name suggests, this type of comedy, it pokes fun at everyday life. So any mundane everyday life situation that you can think of, maybe while you're traveling to school or traveling to work, and you see a host of people there waiting for a bus or waiting for a train, and what entails that everyday life situation. That could be one situation where you observe keenly the traits that people have during that activity, and then that could be one situation which rakes up all the humor. Yes, so any bit of everyday life, by observing that the silliness of something that the society accepts as normal, and you portray that as something silly or something humorous, then that gets you the laugh. Yes, so that's what observational comedy is all about. It can come from really routine everyday moments that nobody could have thought of as being humorous. Yes, and that's what the take is here, transforming a routine everyday kind of a moment into something which is hilarious, right? So that's the subtopic of the day, and let's move ahead to one of the scenarios that I have for you. So how this works in today's episode is that I will be giving you this scenario at the starting of the observational comedy information and tips and tricks. And once we start giving you the essentials and the tips, then we will try to join the dots with this observation or with this scenario that we have here, and try and understand how we can incite humor through this, right? So here is scenario one for the day, which is hustle and bustle in a wedding, right? So just picture this, that you have supposedly recently attended a big fat Indian wedding, and now portray the absurdities you noticed in a comic way to your audience, right? So this is going to be about this scenario where you attend an Indian wedding. Think of all the possible things that can happen in an Indian wedding, right? There is food, and that to good food. Let me tell you, people are gorging on food. There are a lot of people, maybe a bride and a groom and their sets of families, right? Then all of them are really well dressed, right? And the way that the venue is set up, that also could be one of the elements that you can be including into your humor, right? So just picture a beautiful Indian wedding, and then let's observe all the things that happen in an Indian wedding and try and make humor out of it, right? So might seem a bit of a daunting task in the starting, but let me tell you, as we move forward into our episode, we are going to give you a lot of essentials, and you can then join the dots and try to make up your own humor. Yes. So let's move ahead to the next segment. Here we have one of the icebreaker questions. So the question is, what is your favorite part of the day? Do let me know in the chat box. What do you prefer? Morning, afternoon, maybe evening, or bedtime? Yes. So which is the favorite part of your day? Let me know in the chat box. For me, I think I have spoken about this a lot in the past episodes. Morning time at dawn is one of the favorite part of my day, because I have the whole day in front of me, and the whole day ahead of me actually, and I can really plan out my day without any kind of a hindrance, sitting there in solitude amongst nature, and sipping my cup of tea and planning for the day. That really eases me out. Yes, so that's one of the favorite part of my day. What about you? Do let me know in the chat box. Prisha tells me that it is evening time because she gets to play. That's lovely, Prisha. And I think you love meeting your friends, and that's why it is one of your favorite part of the day. Yes. Okay. Morning is another answer that I get there. Creative handle, thanks a lot for that. Okay, and I'm getting some repeat answers here. Evening and morning, I think, are the best times that you could all think of. Great. Thanks again. Let's move ahead to our next segment. So it is all about establishing the essentials. Yes. So for writing stand-up comedy set, which is all about observational humor, what are the four definite elements? Let's look at that. Here are the elements on my screen. First of all, we have an opening line, and then we have bits, then we have something called transitions, and then finally the closer, right? So let's look at what each of these entails, and then we will also weave it with the scenario that we spoke about, right? The scenario was the big fat Indian wedding, right? And here is the first essential element, which is the opening. Yes. So what is the opening of a stand-up set? Now, like in a story, opening is going to be the introductory part, right? Similarly, in a comedy set, or it is also called a comedy routine, the opening often dictates how the show will go. Yes. So if you have made that connect with the audience just in the opening segment or in the opening line, then you're sure that your set is going to go well. And of course, like as a comedian, you also get to become a bit confident about your audience, right? And so what you need to do in your opening set is you need to start with a great joke to get the audience laughing from the first line itself. Yes. And now you have the momentum set, and then you can of course be confident of your performance and take the comedy routine ahead with the approval of the audience, right? So that's how the opening should be. Just like when you start reading a book, whether you're going to be glued on to the book or whether you're going to just get bored with it in the initial few moments, all depends on the first page, right? If the author is able to lure you with curiosity and with eagerness, then you're definitely going to stay with that book, right? Similarly, in a comedy set, if that opening line or the opening set works well for you, then you can really pat your backs and become confident that your set is going to do well, right? So that's how important the opening set is for a comedian, right? Now let's look at how we can be weaving the opening set for the scenario that we spoke about initially. Yes. So here is the next segment here, establishing the essentials, and it is the opening, right? So let's catch up with the scenario. We had a big fat Indian wedding that we have been to, and how we can be starting is by cracking a joke on how you stumbled right when you entered the banquet because you were pushed by a rail of kids running out to nowhere. Yes. So now that line opens your segment well. Now, you can also enact that particular segment out to your live audience. You can show as if you're stumbling and just about to fall, right? Because of a rail of kids who are running out to nowhere. Yes. And that opening line where your audience connects with you, it's going to be really relatable to them because in a big fat Indian wedding, there is a lot of crowd, a lot of people, and this is something that could be happening, right? So that's how you start your segment. And let me also bring your attention to one of those pictures that we have there on the screen. So if you look closely there, it says, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may update your Facebook status. So that itself is a little bit hilarious, right? The bride and the groom are really busy trying to update their Facebook status, right? So yes, that's how you create humor. It is just a line there, a punchline, and humor is created, right? So of course, it is going to take a bit of an effort and a bit of skill, but you can be doing it. You just need to understand how it works, and try writing your comedy sets and also practicing that in front of maybe your family and near and dear ones so that you know how they are taking the joke. Yes. So let's move ahead after that opening bit. I'm also going to keep checking my chat box here. Hello there, Syed. Thanks for joining the live. And let's move ahead to our next important segment, which is the bits. Now, let me tell you what bits is. This is what the comedians call as jokes is what they call as bits, and every bit has a setup detailing the characters, the situation that they are in. There might be a punchline as well, and of course there is the conclusion, which is the funniest part of the joke, and almost always it goes against what the audience expects is going to happen. Now, when you catch the audience by surprise and when you catch them off guard, then humor is going to flow, right? So that is one of the tips here. When you are talking about a bit that is nothing but a joke, you have to detail the characters, you have to give a description about the situation, make them see all of that you're talking about, make them visualize all of those things, and then finally the conclusion should be such that you take them by surprise, right? And that's what is going to work for you, and going to incite the humor. Yes. So bits are the jokes that come after the opening segment. And now let's again weave our story here with the scenario that we had. So again, for the bits, catching up with the scenario, now how can you form a joke around the situation, right? So you can narrate how the auntie from the neighborhood couldn't stop pulling your cheeks in the middle of the social circle, and right when you were about to have the release, she throws up on you because of overeating. Yes. Another scenario which is really seen or observed in a wedding, people gorging upon food like there is no tomorrow. Yes. And then that's what happens, you tend to throw up, right? So that is another situation that you can be talking about in your comedy set, and it is definitely going to work because your opening line where you tried showing the audience how you stumbled because of a rail of children pushing you forward, is has now started up the momentum, and now you are gearing up for all the jokes, right? So that there is where the bits come to play, and this could be one of the scenarios that you can be talking about. And now let me also bring to your attention another fact that normally comedians apply while they are on the stage. So this is called wordplay, and let me show you one of them here. You can see that on the screen here. So it's been an emotional day. Just a second. Yes, I think it is showing now. So yes, so the picture says it's been an emotional day, even the cake is in tears, right? So there is a word play here with the word tears, because definitely it has two different meanings here, right? So that's how you can be also using word play in your comedy set or in your comedy routine, and make the public laugh, right? So this was the second essential, that is bits, that is nothing but jokes. And now let's move ahead to the third essential element, which is the transitions, right? So just like the word transition, it only means that these are bridges that connect one joke to the next. So now you have started with your first joke, and now you need to connect it with another joke to keep your story moving forward, right? So now if we try catching up with the scenario here again, after that bit where you spoke about the neighborhood auntie pulling your cheeks and then throwing up on you because she had gorged on good food, now imagine telling about the beautiful girl who was flaunting her 6 inches high pencil heel and slipped on that puke, and the trail of kids stopping right there to mimic her. So now what have you done? You have connected all the dots, and you have transitioned from that first joke to the next, with the common theme here being that puke that was there on the ground. Yes. So I know it is a little bit weird, but that's definitely going to make people laugh. And again, let us see one of those pictures that we have here. Marriage is the bond between a person who never remembers anniversaries and another who never forgets them, right? So yes, so that's how we saw how we open this joke or the comedy set. Then we perform bits in between, which are nothing but jokes, and then we transition from the first joke to the next, right? And try to keep a common theme there so that the audiences do not get baffled. And then finally we have the conclusion, right, or the closer. Now the final joke in the show is called the closer, and it might also be called a callback, or it can be a reference to an earlier joke. So now you can wrap up your set with a solid close that leaves the audience laughing, right? So now how are we going to connect it with the scenario? So now here we saw that the auntie threw up, and then there was this beautiful girl who was in her high heels and she slipped on that puke. And now imagine, after being run over by a group of kids, embarrassed in the middle of the neighborhood aunties, and all sorts of jokes being played on you, you finally wait for the ultimate motive, that is, why have you attended the wedding? And right when your dinner is served and you're getting back out of the buffet queue, again the rail of kids hit you with your plate falling on the ground and your emotions along with it. Yes, so that could be the closing joke, where you have again connected it to the first opening line, where the rail of kids made you stumble, right? So again, you are on in the same scenario, the rail of kids hit you with your plate falling on the ground, and again your emotions also along with it. Yes, so that's how you can be catching up on the scenario. I hope you all have had a good understanding of how this can be done. Yes, so that's what is observational comedy. You have one particular scene that you have been through, maybe it could be also out of experience, and then you start with an opening line, have a lot of jokes in between, try to connect them and transition between the jokes, and finally give a closer where you have a callback or a reference to an earlier joke, right? And with all of these essentials being dealt with, now let's move ahead to the next segment, which is a synonymous word, right? So the synonymous word for today is ultimate, and we have synonyms for ultimate, which are eventual, last, and final. Yes, so these are the synonyms Do jot them down in your synonymous journal. Try using them wherever appropriate. Yes. With that, let's move ahead to the next segment. And here we have the quiz time, right? So gear up for the quiz time. Afreen Rizvi, thanks a lot for that like. And the first question that we have for today is, how many legs does a spider have? Do let me know in the chat box the number of legs a spider has. Okay, 8 is the correct answer. Thanks a lot for that. Prisha R. Joseph. Yes, all of those correct answers there in the chat box. 8 legs, and let's move ahead to the next one. What is the name of the toy cowboy in Toy Story? In the movie Toy Story, Covey Brothers. 8 is the correct answer. Thanks again for that response there and for being a participative audience. Name of the toy cowboy in Toy Story. A really beloved character. Let me give you the name. It is Woody. Yes. So now, with that, we are going ahead to the expert tips on establishing the essentials. So we saw 4 essentials there: the opening joke, bits, transition, and then the closer, right? And now let's understand 2 expert tips that I have for you. The first one is that you can always go with your best material and don't be afraid to cut. That means that less is always more, so you can remove the extra bits that aren't hitting their marks, and that you're going to come to know when you're performing in front of the live audience. Yes, so you see that one particular joke is not working with your audience, then you can of course alter it and maybe cut it then and there, and do not pursue it any further. Yes, so that's what is the first expert tip here: go with the flow. The second one is that you need to remember to keep it conversational. Even though you have written your stand up act, perform each bit as if it is the first time that you're telling a story, right? So the connect that you have with the audience is really important. How much ever good your jokes are, if you do not perform that properly, and if you do not see to it that you have a connect with your audience, then your jokes are really not going to land, or they are not going to work with that bit of the audience there. Yes, so that's the second expert tip here, that you need to keep it moving with the audience, have a connect with the audience. Yes, and now let's move ahead to the next segment, which is decipher the idiom. And as we all know by now, idioms are hidden phrases. I'm sorry, they are phrases which have a hidden meaning, and you cannot take them literally, though, right? So the first idiom that we have for today is a barrel of laughs. And what it means is a person or a source which is a lot of fun, or who is a lot of fun or amusement, right? And everyone wants to have people around them who are a barrel of laughs. Yes, so how can we frame a sentence with this particular idiom? Every time we are with Johnny, he's a barrel of laughs, right? So that's how you use it in a sentence. And what it means to say is that Johnny is really funny and that you love his company, right? So with that, we have that idiom, barrel of laughs. I hope you all have had a good understanding of that idiom there. You can use these idioms in your conversations, or maybe in your writings as well, and it is definitely going to form a very good impression, right? So that was the first idiom in our Decipher the Idiom segment, and let's get moving to the second icebreaker question. What is your favorite hiding spot? Okay, so quickly in the chat box, let me know your favorite hiding spot. My kids find hiding behind the curtains one of their favorite spots. And although I already know that I can find them there, but still, I know kids and their innocence, right? So yes, hiding behind the curtain is one of their favorite spots. What's your favorite spot? Let me know in the chat box here. Behind the cupboard is what Varun tells me. Okay. Under the stairs. Oh, yes. We all have played hide and seek, and we know all the wonderful places to hide, isn't it? Lovely. in the bathroom. Okay, that's wonderful. Yes, so thanks again for all of those answers and those smileys, those emojis, really making my day. And let's move ahead to the next segment. We have frame the fun part. Okay, so again, I'm going to discuss three important elements in how you can be framing the fun part of your stand up comedy, right? So here is the next segment, plotting the plot. We have characters, we have the situation and the conflict, and of course the setting as well. Yes, so what can you do to make your comedy set really funny? Yes, so you can talk about the characters, focus on some of the characters that you have in your stand-up routine. Be quick and choosy about your characters. They must have something comic about themselves, right? So your character himself may be a funny one, and maybe also you can choose a character who is really silly, or who is really clumsy and keeps falling all over the place maybe. Yes, so frame a perspective wherein you could present them as laughing elements. For example, the auntie pulling your cheeks in the wedding, or that uncle who has been eating for over hours and yet you're noticing them joining the buffet queue again. Yes, so that could be hilarious, isn't it? So there are people that you meet in your life whom you feel that are really funny. So maybe you can observe those people around you as well, co-workers, colleagues, or if you are students, then um, p- students studying with you, classmates, right? All of these characters you can observe, and try writing about them in your comedy sets. Yes, and then the second element that we have here is the situation or the conflict. Now you need to be really descriptive about the situation, and also the conflicts that you have in your comedy set. If you are talking about your comedy set in a telltale kind of a way, then you can have characters weaved into them, situations and conflicts weaved into them. Now, no matter how gray they sound, project them more funnily. For example, the girl with high heels tripping over the puke of that auntie. That could be really hilarious. Yes. So try your best about being hilarious and scratch out a central conflict that could drive your plot ahead. Yes. So that's how you can weave all of these fun situations into your comedy set. And then finally, we also have the setting. Yes, so choose the setting of your plot really carefully. Try avoiding dark places. Remember that you're not writing a fiction wherein you will be given the privilege of wordplays. You have to be elaborative with your speech. Try funnily portraying the scene. For example, when we talk about the scenario where the scenario about the great Indian wedding, while entering that banquet there, try stumbling a little on the stage. You can make that physical movement and project the ditch on the ground and let the viewers laugh on your act as well. Yes, so that's how you bring out that liveliness to the setting. And you can be descriptive, you can talk about the setting in detail so that your audience pictures it carefully, right? So this is how you can be weaving all of these elements into your comedy set. Right now, let's move ahead to the next segment that we have here, which is again decipher the idiom, the second idiom for today. It is a laughing stock. So what do you mean by this idiom, a laughing stock? So, whenever someone is called out as a laughing stock, it means that the person is made fun of because of some kind of blunder or mistake that they have made, right? And a sentence in which you can use it is, if I wear that dress to school, I will be the laughing stock of the 10th grade. Yes. So that means that that dress may be clumsy, that dress may be out of fashion, probably. And that's why you're saying that you might become the laughing stock of the 10th grade class, right? So that's the idiom, a laughing stock. And jot down all of those idioms in your journal and try using it wherever possible. You can also go ahead into Google and check for the meaning and various interpretations, how you can be using it in your comedy set, maybe. Yes. And worth remembering. All of these idioms are really worth remembering, right? So after all of those, all of that wealth of information that I gave you about an observational comedy performance or a comedy routine, let's move ahead to another segment here, which is name this famous stand-up comedian. Okay, so we spoke about this famous personality in yesterday's episode. Let me know if you can make a guess of who this famous personality is? That is correct. It is, of course, Zakir Khan, right? Um, really popular in OTT sets in India, right? And let's move ahead to some of our other expert tips and tricks. The first expert tip here is, if you're not sure where to start, then you can always use your personal experience and write what you know. Yes. So, what is the culture that defines you? What kind of household did you grow up in? What values were instilled in you? What are the different lifestyles and customs you embrace? Do some thinking about all of these, all of the background that you come from, and write a bit with that perspective at its heart. Yes. So that's how observational comedy can be really, relatively, it can be easy, because it is relatable. It is something that we all go through, and it is a situation which is everyday life, which is really mundane, and it is not rocket science at all, right? And we also have this inkling that our audience is definitely going to understand what we are speaking. Yes. So you just need to think about all the background that you come from, and maybe you can, the starting point could be that. Yes. Now, the second expert tip that we have here is, write a punchline or two. The punchline is always a plot twist that goes against the logical conclusion. In some cases, the punchline might be the first part of the joke you uncover. In that case, work backward to the setup. And if it is a longer bit, or a joke that is little longer, then you can include jab lines, funny moments in the body of the joke, so that the audience doesn't have to wait too long for a laugh, right? And this is one of the important things while you're writing stand-up comedy sets. You do not want the audience to be waiting for that joke. Yes. And that is when the audience loses interest in your comedy set. Yes. So that's another expert tip that you need to work upon. And with that, we have given you a lot of information on how you can be thinking about writing observational comedy or observational humor. Tomorrow, again, we will be giving you a different scenario, and trying to weave a story out of that scenario and make it hilarious, right? For now, we come to the end of our episode. But before I end the broadcast, I have another fun segment for all of my dear viewers. Here it is. Locate the words is the name of the segment. So I'm going to show you a letter maze, and you need to quickly find out all the hidden words. These words could be written horizontally, it could be written vertically, and even diagonally. And let me tell you, all of these words are from today's episode. It could be from the scenario that we saw, right? So think about all the meaningful words that you can see here in the letter maze, and quickly give me answers in the chat box. Okay. Rail is the correct answer. Yes. Wedding is right. That's correct. So we have 4 words for today. 2 of the words you have already given me. Humor, of course. Good job there. You all have given me correct answers. Let me showcase the answers here. We have wedding. Heels was the other one that we missed. And then there is humor and also rail. Yes. So thanks again for all of those answers. And now let's do a quick roundup and understand the different things that we learned in today's episode, right? So, at a glance is the name of the segment, and we saw that we have to weave into our comedy set all the essentials like character, the setting, situations, and the conflict. And what were the essential points? Every comedy set will have an opening line, then it will have different bits in between, that is nothing but jokes. And then you also need to showcase carefully the transition between one joke to another. And finally, we have a closer, which is nothing but the conclusion, where we close the joke, right? So these are the essential points. And then for the project work, what you can be doing is implement all the learnings that you have had today and try drafting your very own observational comedy script. Yes, you can try thinking about one particular situation which makes you laugh, which is an everyday mundane kind of a situation. Maybe it could also be something where getting up early in the morning and going to school, getting ready to school, and all the chaos that ensues in your home. Maybe that could be the situation. Think about one particular situation and how you can be opening the story, how you can be having different jokes in between, and try connecting those jokes, have a common theme, and then finally come up with a closer, right? So that's the project work. Try writing your very own first observational comedy script. Yes. And tomorrow I will be meeting you with scenario 2 of observational comedy. And it's going to be real fun to check out how we can be writing different sets in observational humor. Yes. So tomorrow as well, stay tuned in with me at 6 p.m. India time. I am Sapna Mahadevan signing out for today, and would definitely ask you to take good care of yourselves, have a fun time, and keep laughing. Bye bye.